I had no idea we were live. I'm so sorry. I'll make it all together more acceptable. How's that?
Yeah, let's say much better. Right then, folks. Max, we usually start off with some messages. Can you give them to our listeners, please?
We do indeed, yes. You should follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube and click the little bell button so that you can keep up to date with all things the Cricket Podcast, and keep up to date with what direction Daniel's camera is pointing in. And you should also check out our sponsors, Woodstock Cricket. And I've been a bit thrown there, really.
That's fine. I've realised as well that we just did the introductions to ourselves because the stream didn't quite go live in time. So, you know, that's Dan up there, that's Max over there, and I'm Jack. Hello again. You should also head over to Patreon and become a patron. They say when you start off an innings, don't they, that you should. It's about getting to 10, work in tens, nerdle your way around. Well, so far we're up to 5 Patreons, so we're halfway to 10. So go over there, help us out, or click join on YouTube, and it does virtually the same thing. Max, should we talk about today's cricket match first?
Yep, that would seem a sensible place to start. So obviously, anyone who follows us on Twitter will have seen our thoughts on proceedings, but we'll give a little summary of what happened. So Punjab Kings against the Royal Challengers Bangalore, and Punjab Kings got off to a typically slow start. Pretty painful, in fact. KL Rahul, in particular, showed off his skills at the top of the order of seeing the shine off the new ball. But once a certain Christopher Henry Gale arrived, things actually started to get interesting. And he caught KL Rahul's 21-ball score in 6 strikes off Carl Jamieson, which itself seemed to embarrass King Legend a little bit. And he actually got going as well. And they were going pretty well, actually, Punjab Kings, about the halfway stage, going at 9-10 and over, and things were looking up. Unfortunately, their middle order did a cracking impression of Sunrisers Hyderabad and completely imploded. And again, Punjab looked like they were going to fail. But there was some late redemption from KL Rahul alongside probably quite surprising, but very adept effort from Harpreet Brar took Punjab Kings to a decent-looking 179 off their 20 overs. In reply, RCB lost Padikal pretty early, and Kohli did his best impression of KL Rahul during the power play by also scoring hardly any runs at all. Patidar toiled even worse than Kohli, and after that slow but reasonably steady start, Harpreet Brar played the role of Axar versus England and totally bamboozled Virat Kohli and Glenn Maxwell to effectively end the game as a contest with a double wicket maiden. And then just to add the cherry on top to that particularly iced cake, he followed that up with the scalp of A.B. de Villiers, and the rest of the game I didn't really pay a lot of attention to, but I think, as far as I can tell, Harshal Patel and Carl Jamieson did a bit of hitting to make it look a little more respectable, but ultimately it was a very comfortable win in the end, and very surprising. Jack, you kind of, I don't know if the listeners caught what you mentioned at the start because of the technical issues, but you did mention that there was some Twitter action today, and you've taken a bit of a novel approach really to the social media boycott that's been going on, and rather than remaining silent, you actually chose to spend the entirety of the time piling in on KL Rahul. So after
if
such
you
a
hadn't
comprehensive,
said that, people would think it was Ross.
Well, we I think let's as we know from politics in this country, that honesty is definitely the best policy, so we should be open. But yeah, Jack, after such a comprehensive win, what do you have to say for yourself? Are you going to apologise to the man?
Well, look, I don't think it was a bad innings in the end. What I would say, and I think this is what the frustrating thing with KL Rahul is that the way he played in the final over was so exceptional that you kind of just wish he'd started doing that 4 overs ago. And you know, that's what we want from KL Rahul. We want a little bit more legend, and a little bit more king, I suppose. It's what we want. Dan,
Yes.
did anything? What piqued your interest in that match?
Well, I mean, firstly, what's piqued my interest in this match is your response to KL Rahul's innings, as if he just capriciously decided that he wasn't going to hit balls that he could hit for six, just because he felt like not doing it to annoy you, and then only did it at the end, just to prove that he could have done it all along, rather than maybe he couldn't have done it earlier and then did do it, because it might just be the way that KL Rahul is, in a way. I mean, watched him quite a bit. Look, at the end, he got 91 not out from 57. I know the perennial argument that all of us will always have is, well, if you start off slowly, you've got to score the runs, unlike Virat Kohli. So I'm surprised we haven't actually started with how he is destroying the Royal Challengers Bangalore right now and making it inevitable that they will finish fifth or sixth because he got 35 from 34. Obviously, we should not overreact to any of these things. What they are is there were players playing against fantastic bowling on occasion. There was some terrific bowling from both sides, actually, today, early on. And then Rahul, he got lucky with a really bad over from Harshal Patel. It does take my eye just how we can believe that Harshal Patel is the best death bowler in world cricket for 4 matches. And then because he misses his lengths and gets whacked for an enormous number of runs, he suddenly isn't. I think what we're having to come to terms with is the fact that T20 is capricious and strange and weird. And Bra, I loved Bra. I didn't really like Alan Wilkins trying to invent the phrase 3 bra trick, because I wasn't sure.
No, that was a low point, actually.
Well, I wasn't sure that it could work
so far.
I couldn't see quite how it would ever work, as a thing. But I was dead excited the moment AB de Villiers came out to bat, and he could have got the best hat trick in IPL history.
Oh my God!
Kohli, Maxwell, ABD. Is there a better hat trick ever?
Well, why don't we talk about that just for a little bit? Because I think they were his first 3 wickets in the IPL. And I was going to ask you two, off the top of your heads, if you were going to take 3 wickets in a T20 match in your first game in the IPL, which 3 players do you take down? Because I think Kohli, Maxwell, de Villiers are 3 of the top 5 choices, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but you can only take them down if they're playing at the same team.
Well, let's say it's after next year's mega auction. So
I was going to say, if you're going to constrain us to actually possible events in this year's IPL, then that is by far the best 3 that you can get, isn't it? I mean, unless Kane Williamson's playing for Sunrisers and Manish Pandey isn't, and then you can go Warner, Bairstow, Williamson. That'd be pretty good as well. I'd quite like that, just because Dave Warner's more annoying.
That would be good. Dhawan caught in the deep. Shaw, because the batters are crossed. Now next ball.
And then Steve Smith.
I mean, that would be the funniest hat trick. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Just to go back to KL Rahul, it's not that I think it's and you kind of touched upon it a little bit. What did you say? Because T20 is quite capricious. Another way of saying that would be it's quite high variance if you wanted to be a bit statistical about it. And I think that KL Rahul's go slow approach to start with, we've been critical of how that puts pressure on other batters in the team to perform, when actually he seems to be the one he seems to be the best player in the team. So why isn't he the one trying to score at a quicker rate than everybody else? That's the way I'd sort of flip that round. I mean, I think today, Chris Gale kind of bailed him out a little bit, didn't he, Max? Particularly sort of towards the end of that power play. Do you want to talk about Christopher Henry Gale defying the
naysayers and the Boo Boys?
Yeah, well, it was a right contrast, wasn't it? KL Rahul sort of scratched his way to 18, and after Chris Gale came in, he basically just, I mean, you said, Daniel, that KL Rahul got a little bit lucky at the end with a poor final over from Harshal Patel, and it was poor. It was littered with full tosses, and I think
high full tosses.
Yeah, I think Chris Gale was welcomed to the crease with I guess similar open arms. They weren't full tosses, but there were repeated full half volley leg stump and no deep mid wicket
Didn't
So-
they also bring on? Didn't Kohli also bring on Ravi Bishnoi? Not Ravi Bishnoi, but I've lost a lot of blood today. I've cut the end of my finger off, so I'm going to be a little
Well,
bit.
we might
all
make
over
it
the
to
place.
the end of the live stream. We'll see.
Chahal. So didn't Kohli bring on? So basically, there's an iron rule of T20 cricket, and that's don't bowl a leg spinner to Chris Gayle. And Kohli basically broke that rule as soon as Chris Gayle came to the crease.
After Kohli had got himself going with 4 fours in 4 balls.
Yeah.
He then fed him a bit more. But that kind of got Punjab Kings power play into a decent position. Whereas before that point, they were looking at again being 20-odd, 30 for 1, and then the pressure is really on. And I think that's actually partly why Chris Gale's not been his usual excellent self quite so far this IPL, because he does. He likes to block a few before he starts smacking them for 6, and when you're put under a bit of pressure to go from ball 1, it's not quite as easy. And today he was able to go for ball 1, and that kind of made up for the issues at the start. And I think it got KL Rahul going as well. I think that was another thing that he benefited from. Maybe saw from the other end, oh, actually, maybe I should play some shots, and then did play some shots, and in the end, it was a fine innings.
But look, why isn't he opening the batting? Right, the point today,
especially today,
today,
especially today.
See, today he did have that license because he came in because the opening partnership had been so flaccid and depressing, and was getting nobody anywhere. So he had to attack from ball 1. There's no other point in him. Why isn't he just opening the batting? He doesn't run. You've got an infield. You've got 5 people on the offside, 2 on the leg. There are no singles. His only purpose in life is to block out the first over, maybe get a single off the last ball. Then he's got his eye in. Then hit one boundary in the next over, and then go berserk while the field is up. That is the purpose of Chris Gayle. To have him at 3 just means that if you clog up a bunch of those balls, why? Why are you doing it? It just seems to me to be insane. The other part of the way Punjab have set up, which is why I think you're being, Jack, incredibly unfair on KL Rahul, is that their middle order is designed to do nothing but go batshit crazy. So that's the point of Nicholas Pooran. That's the point of Huda. The point of Rahul is a little bit like the point that Royal Challengers Bangalore have, is that you have Kohli at the top. The idea is that he anchors his way through the innings. Hasn't quite happened for Kohli in the way I expected it to. I'm sure we'll come on to him shortly. But Rahul played it perfectly today, didn't he? Because he did do exactly that thing that you want them to do. Stay in, keep it going. I know you didn't, because you were tweeting all about it, even though there's a Twitter blackout. And then he goes, and then he went absolutely berserk at the end, which is that he played it perfectly. I mean, you should actually get down on your lousy, stinking knees and beg for forgiveness for what you wrote earlier, because he played the perfect T20 opening batsman's innings.
So I disagree with that. I think the perfect T20 opening innings, or the perfect way to open the batting in T20 cricket is with 6 fours, like Prithvi Shaw did the day before. And we will get onto that a bit later in the show. But I think there's very little evidence that playing in the way that KL Rahul did today is actually something that anybody is able to replicate with any level of consistency. 3 out of 4 times.
It's unsustainable. Is it?
3 out of 4 times it's not going to work. So he'll have just used up 20 balls at the beginning in the power play at the easiest point in the game to score runs, because there are only 2 fielders on the rope. He'll have used up that, the sweet spot to achieve virtually nothing. And there's the Punjab Kings, they're bottom of the teams in terms of runs scored in the power play, and there's a reason for that, and that's him. So that's my criticism of him. I'm going to leave it there. I will acknowledge today, of course, that 95, not going to knock that on a pitch that looked a little bit tricky. Maybe there was a bit more to it, and that last over, it does redeem him quite significantly. Like that was That was good batting. That gets the Jack Hope seal of approval.
That's what we all strive for in life.
Can we send that to him somehow, and maybe get a photograph of him receiving it?
That would be good. Max, in the second innings, we saw not KL Kirk. I have lost. I'm serious. I'm going to repeat this one more time. I've lost a lot of blood today. I cut the.
It's very dramatic, isn't it?
We saw Kohli get a bit bogged down with Patidar. We talk about match losing innings on this show. Do you think that the pair of them sort of had a little match losing partnership there, or do you think that it was too many runs in the first place and the bowling was too good?
I think they put themselves well on the way to losing that game with that innings, and I think it actually that Kohli innings kind of illustrates the sort of problem that you were describing there, Jack, that we sometimes have with the way KL Rahul plays, because if what transpires is that he gets out after 30 balls like Kohli did and has scored nothing, that's the flip side, isn't it? And that's what you say, it's not always going to work out that you can bat deep and then score those runs at the end. And if you block up, it's a quarter of your team's balls to score 30 runs when you need 180. It's
Max,
really
Max,
putting you behind.
Max, just look at the maths here. It's 70 balls the top three faced, and they scored 73 runs.
Yeah.
There weren't that many extras. They weren't being helped out that much. There was 62 off 10 overs chasing that.
Yeah.
With Maxwell and AB de Villiers in the tank to come. So what I find unforgivable about the approach is that once you've decided that Kohli's going to anchor, then Padikkal and Patidar have to go. That's the point of it, because they've got Maxwell and AB de Villiers next. The idea of Maxwell and AB de Villiers at 4 and 5 isn't that you say, oh, well, if we set them 130 off 10, that'll be fine.
I mean, if there are two players you want to come in when you need 130 off 10,
yes,
I'd probably take them.
But that's not a game plan, Max.
Yeah,
that's not a game plan.
That's if you want to set up the most ridiculous chase over and over again. I mean, if you wanted to do that 14 times, they might pull it off twice. They'd be great matches.
Maybe that's what they're after. But yeah, I mean, no, you're absolutely right. That is the crux of the problem for RCB in that innings. I think Padikkal just got out. He tried. He got out trying to score some runs. It was very ugly, but he was trying to score some runs. Patidar was a disaster.
It was. He's
absolute disaster today.
Today, of all the batters that you've mentioned today, Rahul, Kohli, Padikkal, Maxwell, all of them, Patidar was the one that and I don't want to single anybody out because I'm not sure he should be there batting at number 3 in that lineup with those players that are in there, expected to come in. Because if he doesn't come in with Padikkal as the opening, as the one that's got out, if Kohli's got out, it's okay. If Padikkal's got out, then they've got to someone's got to make a decision at that point. And what was really weird was that there was sort of 6.5 overs in which it felt like Kohli had made his own decision. And the decision he'd made the same decision for Patidar simultaneously, which is just play like me, which was nuts. Because what should actually have happened is he should have communicated. He should have said, Patidar, just have a go, mate. This is fine. We got Maxwell, we got AB next. I'm just hanging in. And he didn't do that. He chewed up 30 balls for 31 runs. That was the problem in the chase. But come on. I mean, can I have a little moment, a very brief moment? To say something that's probably not backed up by fact because I haven't checked it in a mirror, but
that's fine. Dan Weston's not here, so you're all good.
Left arm spinners bowling on responsive tracks to right hand batsmen is one of the sights in cricket that makes me genuinely pre-epic, because there is something about the way that the left arm spinners curve and movement away, and we saw it today with Bra, is somehow different from an off spinner bowling to a left-hander. And it was sensational watching him. And then you had Ravi Bishnoi charging in like he's actually trying to kick away a flock of pigeons. Get out of my way! And flinging his ball at it. I mean, there was a moment of great spectacle there. And I know the Punjab Kings are a source of a degree of fun because they consistently failed to really make a massive impression. But they made a huge impression on me today. That sort of 7 or 8 overs of spin between Bishnoi and Bra was aesthetically brilliant. It was skillfully delivered. It bamboozled some of the best players in IPL, in Royal Challengers, and it was terrific to watch, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. And I mean, like, we'll go back to it. First 3 wickets in the IPL. Kohli, Maxwell and De Villiers. And also, he gets De Villiers with ball of the tournament. It's not. Kohli comes down the wicket and misses one. De Villiers hits one. It was a bit.
Maxwell? You got Maxwell. That's
yeah.
perfect.
But the Maxwell ball, it sort of drifts in. It spins away, and Maxwell does that thing that only happens when the ball's terrific. He literally cannot believe that he's been bowled. He's standing there and he thinks the wicketkeeper's knocked the bail off, or they're appealing for a caught behind. He's that confused.
He looked like a particularly peculiar cuddly toy at that point, because you know how their eyes always a certain type of toy that small children have. Their eyes are fixed in this position of sort of vague startlement, and he had that. And I was looking at it and thinking, my God, you genuinely don't know what's occurred. In much the same way that Kohli did actually during the Test series against England, didn't he? And we spent ages deciding whether or not Kohli was a danger to cricket and the spirit of cricket for it. Whereas in Maxwell, we just thought, well, fair play. How would you know what the hell had just happened then? Because it fucking turned a mile. Sorry.
Right, we have a super chat, and do send them in because we do read them out. Basically, the chat at the moment is a big discussion about how drunk Max and I am and how many cigarettes you're smoking, Dan. But Sanket has cut through that drivel to say Shaw can hit from ball 1 because he doesn't have the responsibility to carry a team. Shaw has other players to back him up if he fails. Cannot say the same for KL Rahul at Punjab. I think you can, to be honest. I think Chris Gale, Nicholas Puran, Deepak Hooda, and Sharat Khan's a fine middle order.
Yeah, but that's the point. That's why he's batting.
No, I know, but I don't think you can waste the power play. Look, I'll maintain that if he plays, if he keeps scoring 95, then I'll accept that he has invented a new way of playing cricket. But
okay, though. I think one thing though, Jack, and this is really important. It's venues. So we are learning a whole new lingo every time we move from venue to venue. So when we were watching Chennai, everything was about the power play. You basically scored 70% of your runs in the power play because in the last 5 overs, you were lucky if you got 10 and didn't lose 4 wickets. It was a total nightmare. Whereas we're now trying to learn a totally different lingo between Ahmedabad and Delhi. And it seems to me that in Delhi, I think the power play is important, but it'll actually be relatively regular. I don't think the power play is going to be particularly important. I think in Ahmedabad, they've decided so far that being in is the most important thing, because you've got to hit some quite big boundaries as well. When you're on small grounds, there's a little bit more where you can chance your arm, but when you've got slightly bigger boundaries, then if you're going to be able to guarantee that you're going to hit those sixes, you probably need to be seeing it that little bit better. And I think that might be part of the thinking. I'm not sure.
That's possibly true. It's kind of a little bit lopsided, Ahmedabad, isn't it? That one of the boundaries is like Sharjah and the other one's like the MCG.
Well, it'll shift. It'll shift, right? Because they've got.
But at the moment, yeah, for sure.
Max, to wrap up this conversation, because we've got 2 other games to cover. Although I think the other 2 games we'll get through slightly quicker than this one.
I can't remember them actually because
there we go.
Don't admit that. That's half the thing on this show is
sorry. Allow us to bring it flooding back with our lovely summaries.
So I think we've answered Anoop, Vinay and Kartik questions from Twitter. Ben Smith asks, do you think that in order to qualify, Punjab would need 8 wins this year, given the lack of sort of quality in the bottom sides? Do you reckon 7 will do it? Max, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I think these Delhi Capitals, RCB and Mumbai all look like they will probably be. I mean, Mumbai now they're not at Chennai. I think they'll be fine, and I think they'll be strong. It really depends on how badly all the other teams do. Because I mean, if three of them end up being absolutely hopeless, then 7 will definitely be enough. So it's basically it's not sort of a question of how good the top 4 teams are as sort of how many points the other teams can burgle.
I think this is going to be an 8-pointer, an 8 winner, to be honest.
Yeah.
So the top 3 have got 5 wins already, so that they'll have to be equally as bad as they were good to only get 7 wins. So I think and then Mumbai are in 4th, and they're the God squad.
CSK against Mumbai is an absolutely crucial game because what Mumbai represent in this tournament at the moment is everyone expects them to go through, but they keep on giving us hope that they might not by struggling in Chennai. Now, if they then struggle just a little bit the next time, it gives whoever can beat all the teams in the bottom 4, and those are their key games. Those 4 points is absolutely massive. If there's one team that can rise through that, be it, I would think, can't be Sunrisers, probably the Kings. Kolkata Knight Riders are in a horrible place, but they've got quite a high ceiling. So there's a chance there. And as for the top 4, CSK's your thing, isn't it? I mean, what you've got to hope for is that what we all thought after the first game, which is they're a bunch of incredibly old, incapable people who have got their strategy entirely wrong and have developed a squad perfectly for Chennai, but for nowhere else, and have then been proved wrong as they've won 5 games under spin. But with a variety of brilliant individual performances and the rising to the top of Faf du Plessis.
And 4 of those wins have been against the bottom 4.
Exactly. So you've got to hope that what happens is that when they come up against a different kind of reality, they start to slide, because then that brings in whichever side from the bottom 4 will come through. It might just still be a 7er. It might, if Mumbai decide to get exciting or CSK decide to go on a run of losing matches, which is entirely possible. You can see CSK losing 3 in a row, can't you? And the moment that happens,
any team
you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, except the Delhi Capitals, you fancy. And today, actually, the Royal Challengers, they gave the impression of a side that could collapse at any moment. I mean, they really could have lost that game by 65 runs.
Yeah.
They've still lost it by enough to affect their net run rate so badly.
It's gone negative now.
Kohli actually said after the game that he was happy with a 34-run defeat because of the net run rate factor.
Well, he would say that because he had to find a positive in the last 15 minutes of the things he was watching in front of his eyes. But in reality, he'll get back into his hotel room and go, we've got a negative net run rate.
Yeah.
And actually, net run rate across all T20 tournaments in the world is a really good indicator of how good a side is. Because sides win, sides lose. But if they lose by 5, 6, 7 runs or in a super over, it's a very different thing from seeing a side that can get marmalised. And 34 runs is still a marmalising. It should have been 60.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
So CSK looking like the best franchise in T20 history ever at the moment.
Oh, probably. I mean, didn't we already think that? Yeah. Should we move on to yesterday's cricket match? Would you like that? Before we do, just quickly, we're sponsored by Woodstock Cricket. Go and check out their bats and stuff. Max, were you going to be using yours for the first time this Sunday?
Yeah, weather permitting.
Weather permitting.
Stephen Finn was using his today, and he's part of the podcast I'm on, Zero Ducks Given, which we keep a keen eye on Woodstock. And everything was perfectly set up, right? He just had to get through and over Josh Davey and then try and have a go at Jack Leach. We thought, you're down the order, you've got nothing else to do. There's a bet on. If he gets 7 sixes in the county championship this year, we have to buy him champagne because he's only ever hit 6 sixes in first class cricket. He gets 0 in 2 balls, LBW. I haven't checked the dismissal, but if he was not trying to smash the ball over deep mid wicket and was just playing across the line, trap bang in front, I'll be furious. He's barely played a shot in anger with that bat, and it's a beautiful bat. It's a beautiful bat.
Ross, with the first 2 balls of his use of the Woodstock stick, hit 2 sixes. So
did he?
If you're better than Steve Finn, which Ross might actually be.
Well, I think Ross with the bat probably is better than Steve Finn. Yeah.
We're getting some nice messages in the chat comparing us to other podcasts. So for people being positive about that, thank you very much. We won't
kind.
We won't call out the people that we're apparently better than, but we are.
All right. See. Okay. Yeah.
And finally, click join or head over to Patreon, which is in the show notes, if you like what we're doing and you want to help us go from 5 to 10 Patreons, which is the big one.
Everyone loves an arbitrary milestone. We are cricket fans after all.
Yeah, get 10
I remember. Look, I did something called Test Match Sofa. We didn't have Patreon in those days, so we just created a subscriber account. And I tell you, the move from 5 to 10 was, I would say, only 3 moves before I genuinely believe we can make it. 10 was very exciting. 50 was incredible. 100, I was already designing my desert island discs.
Well, why don't we just shoot for 100 then? Why don't we just shoot for 100? If everybody, I mean, how many people are on this stream? We've got.
They don't have to pledge a lot, do they? Even if they just pledge like 50p. And how is that going to hurt you? How is that going to hurt you?
We've got a couple of 100 people watching. If all of you immediately go and give us money, we're
just 50p,
or at the least hit subscribe. Anyway, that was a little diversion. Let's talk about cricket again. Yesterday's evening match for people in the UK, or a late afternoon evening match for people in the UK, was Kolkata Knight Riders v Delhi Capitals. The Kolkata Knight Riders, they batted first, and it was pretty tough going for the boys in purple. Shubman Gill got 43 off 38. It wasn't the most inspirational innings of all time, but it was better than a lot of the stuff going on around him, as Nitish Rana failed, Tripathi failed, Owen Morgan and Sunil Narayan, for some reason, still batting at 5, both getting ducks. It looked pretty grim, I will say, at that point. And then out strode Andre Russell, Dre Russ. And he, after it took him a little while to get going, but once he did get going, he treated us to, well, he rocked it like it was 2019, I'd say. 45 off 27 balls, not out, hit the last ball of the innings for 6. It looked like the momentum was with the Kolkata Knight Riders, until things switched round. And Prithvi Shaw came out to bat, and he went 4-4-4-4-4-4 to open the innings off Shivam Dube. And it kind of proceeded a little bit like that, as he got to 82 off 41 balls. And, you know, between him and Darwan, they'd broken the back of the run chase before a wicket fell. Pant promoted himself to 3, presumably just to wind up Steve Smith. Scored 16 off 8, and then they promoted Stoinis, and then they promoted Hetmeyer. So, as I said before, the tournament might actually happen. Steve Smith would have batted 6 today if another wicket had fallen. As it happens, it didn't. Delhi Capitals 156 for 3 off 16.3 overs. They chased it down rather easily. Let's start with the main man, the rejuvenated Prithvi Shaw, Dan. 6 fours to begin a T20 game. I don't know if you know whether that's ever happened before, but maybe I'll ask a broader question. Have you ever seen a player hit 6 boundaries in an over live before?
Yes, I think I have. The only thing is, I tried to remember exactly what it was. I mean, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? Because I should be able. That should be really, really important to me. But I feel, because I've watched so much cricket, I can't entirely remember which. I think I saw Ian Botham hit Derek Sterling at the Oval for 6 boundaries in an over in 1986. And it was the most number of runs in an over in Test cricket. I think it was 28. And I think that was the first time I witnessed it. But sorry, the ridiculous. You shouldn't ask me a question like that when I've got to delve into my. I'm 52 years old, right? You know, there's a lot of memories competing in there. There's a lot of stuff I've got to try to remember. Prithvi Shaw, I think, is the most beautiful sight in cricket. I think actually in cricket, 2 years ago, I was asked to pick my team of the year in Test cricket, and I picked Prithvi Shaw on the basis of he'd only played 2 Test matches, because what I'd seen him do in those 2 Test matches was just so delicious. I mean, it was like being in the warmest of baths with just the gentlest of bubbles, just teasing away at every part of your body. He's just, when he hits a 6 over extra cover with this ridiculous, effortless ease, a mild stretch, he's a small man. And then there's this last little push of the bottom man, just this tiny little touch, and it sends it just that little bit further into places you can't imagine he can do. I think he's wonderful. I think he's absolutely wonderful. And so seeing him be wonderful is great. I wasn't happy when he wasn't wonderful, and he went through a period of being unwonderful. But now, at the moment, and it's 2 games running now, when he's been beautiful to watch. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit weird.
No,
it?
that was
that was great. I really enjoyed it.
Prithvi Shaw taking us to a dimension that we couldn't possibly imagine was mentally stimulating. Let's say he was good. What I most enjoyed about that innings, I think, was that at one point I think Shikhar Dhawan was on like 40 or 41 balls or something like that, and I was sort of thinking, maybe people should be criticising this, but actually I think he just sort of wanted.
You hate an opener. Going a run a ball. KL Rahul, Virat Kohli, Shikhar Dhawan. Is there no one left?
No, Shikhar Dhawan will let off, because actually after the game he explained what happened, and he said basically the game was over. The game was over. I thought I'd just let Prithvi carry on because he was batting really nicely. I kind of wanted just to watch it. If I were younger, maybe. Yeah.
I didn't know he actually said it. I got the impression that he was literally just like, I'm gonna leave it around at this other end. I've got the best seat in the house.
No, that's 100% what he was doing. And he said maybe when I was younger I would have tried to keep up with him, but I was just let him do the business.
Oh my goodness, he was so good.
That was how confident they were of winning that game, I think.
It looked like they were all having lots of fun as well. I've been really impressed with Delhi. I've been really impressed with Prithvi Shaw. I mean, Vic, one of our...
I think they are the most exciting franchise in some ways, because they're so undemonstratively capable. When any other team does well, they really have to let you know. They really have to beat their chest and explain exactly what it was that they did that's brilliant about them. Whereas Delhi are just quietly but delightedly successful. I think they're just a fantastic team, And today they were just going, let's let run rate the crap out of this, So when they lost the first, we go, go on,
carry on,
go nutso. And you need to see more of that, partly as a broadcaster, because the gates at the Oval close at 7:00. So if you've driven in and parked inside, you've then got to do a mad dash at 6:30 to go downstairs, move the car and put it on an area which is no longer ticketed parking, and then run back upstairs to do the commentary. So I love a side that cares about net run rate. I think it shows a care for the tournament itself, and most importantly, for the broadcasters back in England, that they're not even aware of doing this.
Well, it was finished at something like 6:20, so
brilliant.
It was a really quick one. I mean, the big thing that we're getting, or that we've heard from people on Twitter and from the people in the chat, so I'm thinking specifically here about Ricken and Abhishek, is Morgan's captaincy. So defending 153. It was a little bit curious that Pat Cummins didn't come into the attack. The multi-million-dollar man, Pat Cummins, didn't come into the attack until the 6th over of the innings, Max.
I was quite surprised by that. I was wondering when I saw him come on and I realised it was the first over he's bowled. I had to do a double take. I wasn't sure what had been going on there. I mean, you have seen this IPL that Morgan's been sort of front loading the spin a bit, and Chakravarti bowled a couple of overs in the power play, so that side of things isn't necessarily that surprising. But opening up with Shivam Dube was it obviously didn't go well. So Captain Hindsight can tell you that was a terrible idea. But
Keir Starmer.
But it was a little perplexing, I must say. But you got to, I guess you kind of have to. You got to try things, haven't you? I think they probably knew that 154 was comfortably under par, even despite Andre Russell's antics towards the end. So you've got to try and do something, and if it comes off, it comes off, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it proves to be a big mistake, didn't it? But we've been talking on the last couple of shows about Pat Cummins not being particularly adept at T20 cricket thus far. So
can I throw in something scurrilous and which has no foundation whatsoever?
Absolutely.
That's the foundation of the cricket podcast, in other words.
Excellent. So the bit that I do have foundation on is that the Bengali media are starting to get a bit agitated, and zeroing in on Owen Morgan exactly the same way as they zeroed in on Dinesh Karthik only, 4 or 5 months ago in the
very, very recently.
and when that happens, it becomes quite difficult for that captain. Now, I was thinking about who could possibly replace Owen Morgan as captain of the Kolkata Knight Riders.
Oh, Dinesh Karthik.
Well, no, because Dinesh Karthik clearly doesn't want to do it, right? So I was thinking that the only one possibly left might be Pat Cummins.
I said this on the last show and everyone laughed at me. They said bowlers can't be captains.
No, well, yeah. Well, look.
I don't remember that conversation.
There have been some terrible times going on in India, and Pat Cummins has actually proved himself to be a fantastic spokesperson around that and generous giver. His stock is rising high, and if you're a Kolkata fan and you're reading the stuff in the Bengali media about Owen Morgan, then you might be clamouring for change, and they might clamour for change. And I'm not sure that it's a very good idea. I can't quite see that the problem is Owen Morgan's captaincy. I think the problem Kolkata have is that Owen Morgan has not found any form yet, and he knows that. But he's got a fantastic temperament, and he will find that form, but he hasn't yet. And as a result, everything's zeroing in on him. So Pat Cummins, he might be the man to supersede him. So what would you do if you were the captain? What would you do if you were captain? You'd bring him on after the power play.
So it's under, yeah. So you think there's some
No, I don't.
Some skullduggery.
I genuinely don't. I just said I was going to put out some completely unfounded speculation on why that might happen.
It's interesting what you say about the Bengali media, because isn't Bengal the only place in India where football's more popular than cricket, and the going for one guy is quite a football tactic. Going for the football manager is quite.
Yeah.
I don't. It might happen at all franchises. I don't know, but you don't. I don't know if you.
We need to find a Bengali journalist for a right to reply. Frankly, at this point, and maybe someone can tweet into us and let us know if actually our speculation is ridiculous or quite good.
Almost certainly
possible.
Or certainly nonsense.
I don't know if there's much more to say on this match. It was a pretty easy win for Delhi. It went with the form book. KKR look a little bit listless unless Andre Russell, does a miracle or something.
What about Sunil Narine? He obviously was out of the side to start with. Shakib coming in. Shakib started failing and Narine came back in, and Narine is failing now. Are we going to see Shakib back? Is the revolving door gonna make its way 360 degrees?
In fairness to Narine, he's actually bowled all right. It doesn't appear to have chucked one yet either, so that's two positives. I don't really know why he's batting at number 5. It seems odd, but if you judge him based on his main skill, which should be bowling, then he's done okay, hasn't he, Max?
Well, no, hasn't he really? What he's done is trade on his past, and we know that Ryan was massively effective. And the effect is that currently at the moment he's not. Now he's not. He's under the spotlight, not because we put him on the spotlight, but because they would have done. They've looked at the numbers and they'll be wondering because he's an overseas player and they've got overseas talent sitting on the bench waiting. He's going to be. He's got maybe a game in which he's got to make a real impact. Otherwise, he's not succeeding as a pinch hitter, and he's not controlling when he's bowling.
Is it time for Ben Cutting?
Oh God!
That is
it ever time
Jesus!
For Ben Cutting?
Wow. Yeah.
We've got 2 people in the chat. Drive Home said, yes, I'm from Bengal. Your speculations are quite right. And Subamai says, yes, that's true. I'm from Kolkata. It happened to Robbie Fowler when he was coaching East Bengal, finishing last in the Indian Super League. There you go. Morgan getting the same treatment. Should we move on to the last match, boys, and try and wrap this up in the next 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 minutes?
Yeah, let's do it.
Tell us what happened, Max.
Yeah, fortunately, when it comes to being in charge of wrapping things up, it's not Shivam Dube that's in control, because it was a bit of a strange one, wasn't it? Rajasthan versus Mumbai. We as a game we probably saw it only heading one way, and and with Mumbai probably likely to come away with a win. But Rajasthan actually got off to a pretty impressive start, and Butler finally found some runs, albeit not as quickly as he'd like. But he's started to find the middle, which was good for him. Jaiswal batted well, and also Captain Samson scored some quick runs and set them on the way to look like what it could be a pretty challenging score for a Mumbai side who had interestingly decided to make a like-for-like change in bringing Kane Richardson in for the underperforming Ishan Kishan. But as the well-known saying goes, a static stone gathers lots of moss. And by the time he got out in the 19th over, Shivam Dube had taken on the appearance of an abandoned garden laden not only with moss, but also ivy, fallen leaves, and sort of general weeds. Which is to say that he batted really, really slowly and pretty much single-handedly ruined Rajasthan Royals' really good start and took them from basically looking like getting a good score to what was looking like a maybe under par and very gettable 171. And so it proved, with Quinton de Kock freed from the shackles of the Chipork, actually able to hit the round thing with the wooden thing, and he guided his side to victory with a pretty composed 70 and some lusty blows from Karan Pollard at the end, added a bit of gloss and a comfortable 7-wicket win.
I didn't know you wrote these things. It's beautiful. I mean, genuinely, you should make a collection of them and put them out there.
That was good, Max. That actually was maybe the highlight of the IPL as far as this show goes.
Well, definitely.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Because Shivam Dube, the stationary stone gathering moss, as I think you put it. God, he was taking some heat on social media. I felt a little bit sorry for him, to be honest, because
apart from when you started it.
No, I did no such thing. I did, well, I mean, obviously a little bit, but I feel a little bit sorry for him because I don't think he should be in that position. I think obvious
it's
that
as
he
much
doesn't
a question
quite have
why
the
is he
talent.
batting 4?
Yeah.
Well, crucially, why did he come in with the score 91 for 2 after 9.5 overs? Because that is the exact point when your instinct should be to pounce. So you got Samson at the wicket, you got Miller, you got Tawatiat, and you got Morris.
Yeah.
And if you've negotiated the first 9.5 overs and you're 91 for 2, that's the moment you roll the dice.
Mm-hmm.
Because because Dube could go down the order at 6 or 7 if suddenly they throw away 3 wickets. It was a peculiar decision that I think is something about Rajasthan. But I've got to say about Rajasthan that they've got a bowling attack that I now can believe in.
Why?
I love this because I love this 3-pronged left armour approach. I love the Fizz. I love Sakaria. I do. I think there's something like really strange going on with Sakaria that like makes me genuinely interested. And in Adcat, there are days when Adcat just nails this really flimsy, horrible block hole 72 mile an hour dip ball, which is just a nightmare to face. So I can see what they're doing. They've brought together a bowling attack that could be good enough on its day to win games if, and it's a crucial if, Butler, Samson, in their minds, can get them over the line. But the problem is they then thought, so we need Dube there as a kind of insurance. But that's not the insurance you need when you're 91 for 2 at 9.5 overs. It was befuddling.
What's particularly befuddling is that David Miller came in below him.
Exactly.
They're an odd team. We've talked about them a lot, haven't we, Max?
We have. But not only were we surprised that David Miller came in below Shivam Dube, after he was out, they sent in Rian Parag, and I'm thinking at that point, where's Chris Morris?
Yeah,
because did they not buy him to be like the kind of the guy who comes in at the end and blasts a couple of sixes down the order?
Exactly, Max. I mean, they didn't buy him to be their gun bowler. He bowled pretty well in this game, and he bowled pretty well in some games, but he's not the gun bowler. So you bought him because he's the all-rounder, and the point of the all-rounder is that he's going to go and smack. He's going to do a Hardik Pandya at some point, So what's he doing?
Which he'd already done to win them their game against, was it DC?
Know. There was befuddlement galore that day. I mean, what did Rian Parag get? 8 off 7 balls.
Yeah.
At the death. Not out. I mean, It's insane. That could have been
bad,
that could have been 186, and then the game is different.
Max, we had a really good question from Twitter from Omkar, who said, "Are we going to see Dube and Parag in all 14 matches?"
Oh God, no. I mean, I'm bored of that delivery now. Is he still doing it, Parag? The sidearm thing? I'm bored of that now. That was funny. That was funny for a bit.
I said it's like the man in Jackass who farts a dart out of his arse. The first time you see it in the Jackass movie, you think, "Oh, that's amusing. He fired a dart at Steve-O and it hit Steve-O." And they do it for like 10 minutes, and by the end of the 10 minutes, it's not interesting. The 5th or 6th time you watch Jackass 2, it's really dull.
I think that's more for you, to be honest, Jack, watching Jackass 2 5 or 6 times. But yeah, I mean, the point stands.
Well, unless that ball is really effective, because like the slow undercut Malinga, if he could do it like twice and over, would be fantastic. I mean, unfortunately, it's really predictable when he's doing it. So if it really works, just do it 6 times and over. Really, perfect that. Just go home, perfect that ball, and then bowl that.
Or just go home.
Rather than have us go, hang on, I think he's about to bowl that ball because he's telegraphed it.
And then the inevitable 3-minute check of whether his arm was above horizontal or not. But yeah, it's I mean, it's difficult, isn't it, for Rajasthan Royals, because they're missing Jofra Archer, who is the gun bowler that you alluded to, Dan, and who Chris Morris would have been a brilliant foil to. So that sucks. That really sucks. And they've also lost Ben Stokes, but we have our suspicions about whether that's necessarily such a terrible thing for them in the game of T20. But I suppose it is a terrible thing if they're going to bat David Miller at 5 anyway.
Yes, that's the issue, isn't it? It just seems to me like the thinking isn't quite right. But,
and then Liam Livingston going home, which is the person we said they should maybe bring in instead. So that's another nail in the coffin.
So we've got obviously, as the big Mumbai Indian fans here, I'm celebrating this. Well, you can't really celebrate beating Rajasthan. It's like beating Derby County or something like that in football, or AFC Wimbledon. Although they're basically unbeatable at the moment.
Oh yeah, don't say that. Yeah, Portsmouth and Lincoln, isn't it? Last 2 games. Anyway, moving on.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Rochdale and Northampton, nearly there. It'll
be fine. Yeah. Mumbai, they had a couple of decent performances. Let's start in the first innings with Jasprit Bumrah. 4 overs, 1 for 15. I think he bowled 2 overs at the death as well. That guy's a freak, Dan.
Yeah, it's just wonderful, isn't it? It's just because it's repeatable. The great thing about Bumrah is that when you watch a lot of cricket, you think, have I just got very hyperbolic about a moment? And then he repeats it and he repeats it, but he repeats it slightly differently. He's got a terrific T20 intelligence. I worry about his action and I worry about his longevity in the game. But Malinga had a really weird action that he lasted for quite a long time, so I might be worrying entirely unnecessarily. He has extraordinary skills. Part of it, I wonder, is because of the way he's learnt to play. He's learnt to play in quite an enclosed environment. So he hasn't had a sort of big run-up. And so everything he's thought about has been about his arm and his delivery point and his hand. And so he might have actually developed as a bowler thinking differently from other bowlers that have had different advantages. But it is just supremely brilliant to watch, isn't it?
It's a sort of an absolute treat, and there's nobody like him. I think There's
a great book, Jack, that everyone should read called I can't even remember what it's called, but it's brilliant, and it's about backyard cricket in Australia.
Ulysses, James Joyce.
No, not that. No, never read that. I mean, you could try.
No one should read that.
So I started it many times.
I've read the first 2 chapters 3 times.
This is about backyard cricket, Australian cricketers who and how their game developed. And it's amazing how, if you really think about someone's cricketing development when they're young, you find the cricketer they're going to be in older life. And Bumrah is a great example of that. I mean, Morkel was as well. Morkel used to turn in a circle because he used to have to turn around this thing in order to have a large enough run-up. And so you can see those idiosyncrasies, but with Bumrah, you can see that there's even more. There's so much more invention that's gone into his cricketing upbringing, which makes him such a thinking cricketer and such a fascinating cricketer to watch, when he's bowling, the no balls incense you. Because,
I don't get that either, but he's so good that it all doesn't matter.
but the thing is, it so nearly has mattered. I mean, I think once it did matter, and once he just about got away with it. But it's weirdly, that is the one chink in his armour. He is like Achilles. He has got only one thing wrong with him, which is that he bowls the occasional no ball at a crucial moment. But other than that, is the best T20 bowler in the world.
Oh, I mean, Rashid Khan might argue with that, but
he might, but he can't win. He won't win.
Rashid Khan's too nice to argue anyway.
True.
If you say so, Max. And then Quinton de Kock.
He's always smiling.
It was nice to see him turn up with the bat after a little, cricketing furlough during their time in Chennai. Max, are we in for the revenge of de Kock?
Well, that's an interesting way of putting it. I would like to think so. I think we might have mentioned recently that he can be a bit feast or famine, but there does seem to be a slight weakness on sort of slower pitches with slower bowling. I think it's something that Owen Morgan tried to target with Rohit as well by bowling 6 overs of spin in the power play in the game between KKR and Mumbai. And I would like to think that move away from Chennai, where the cricket has been, let's just say, slightly different to some other more traditional cricket pitches, that will be just what Quinton de Kock needs to get his IPL off the ground. Yeah.
Right then, that's pretty much all the cricket for the last 3 games. We should say to everyone in India, stay as safe as possible. We can see that things aren't good, as we said on the last couple of shows. So make sure that you follow all the guidance, stay in as much as possible, and it will eventually get better. I don't think it ever quite got as bad here, but it did get pretty bad, and now it is better. So the trajectory will eventually turn around. Dan, would you like to mention where people can find you, or are you embargoed from being found for this weekend?
No, I don't think I'm embargoed from being found. I'm just embargoed from speaking, which is fine, because I do an awful lot of speaking. So at Norcross Cricket, as in neither angry nor cross, Norcross Cricket. And I don't want you to find me anywhere else, I don't think.
Okay, well that's good.
So I won't give my address or telephone number or email.
No, local pub.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Max, any final messages for our listeners?
Ross normally does this bit. Follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes, you got it. Yeah, at the Cricket Pod.
Yeah, at the Cricket Pod. They're the ones. And yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. And
head over to Patreon.
Head over to Patreon.
Oh yeah, definitely do that. By the way, honestly, as little as £1, 50p, £1, these guys will appreciate it. I mean, look what they're wearing, look where they live, look how they live.
I need some money for another instrument. I've only got 3 on the wall.
I don't have any.
Anyway, we need to buy Jack a ukulele.
Just £5 a month will buy Jack a ukulele.
Excellent.
He's not been able to have a ukulele for the last 12. How long? Years? When was your last
12?
ukulele?
I actually know what, boys. I have got a ukulele.
So you have?
Yeah.
Sorry. We've been mis-selling you guys.
Don't pay for a ukulele. In
anyway,
fact, what do they need the money for? I mean,
let's wrap this up now. The last thing I will say, there's 255 people watching right now. Click subscribe, because that makes us really happy. It's all about ego, really, this whole fake
endeavour,
cricket media business. And,
yes, I can vouch for that. Absolutely.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Done.